Welcome everyone to our Monday night shiur. B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach v'Hashem b'rachmav v'nariach.
Amen.
Today is the 37th day of the Omer, which is 5 weeks and 2 days. Yesod Shebagvura. Very powerful day. We're going to touch upon that Be'ezrat Hashem towards the end of our shiur tonight. Our shiur tonight is sponsored Le Zivug Agun for Ariel ben Rivka, Maya Mazal bat Rivka, ליעקב בן מרים, השם שישלח להם את זיווגם ההגון והבא קרוב, הביאו בית נאמן בישראל. Amen. I want to say, Klal Yisrael right now is going through an ason after ason. It says in Masechet Sanhedrin, before the end, and nobody denies that we're before the end. We're before a time, the year that we got back Eretz Israel, even though it was through non-observant ways, the year that we got it back. Almost all Sephardic rabbis and many Ashkenazic rabbis said, this is Atchalta de Geula, the beginning of the Geula. Once Klal Yisrael is in Eretz Israel, it's already the beginning. We don't know how the beginning is going to continue. What's interesting is that the Vilna Gaon, in his book, Sifrat Tzniuta, the Vilna Gaon, as we know, lived in the 18th century, about 200 years after the Ari Kadosh. He was such a high level of Kedusha and Tahara, the Vilna Gaon, Rabbi Eliyahu Gaon Vilna. He had the ability to argue with the Ari Kadosh. He didn't agree with some of the Ari's ways of understanding the Zohar, and he had a different path in understanding the Zohar HaKadosh. Inside his book on the Zohar, there is a book of the Zohar called Sifra Tzniuta. This book is called Sifra Tzniuta. In Sifra Tzniuta is basically a brief summary of all the Kabbalah that a big Mikubal could ever learn in his whole life. In 7-8 pages. Is a brief summary of everything. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai then expounded on that on 2 dates. One of the days was the day of his passing. He wrote something called the Idra Zuta, the small gathering. On that day, Adam HaRishon came to him and he revealed the secrets of the Sfirot of Chokhmah and Bina. And on the day of what we call Lag BaOmer, that was the Idra Rabbah, the great gathering which he revealed the secrets of the Sfirot of Keter and of a Partzuf, in short, whoever knows the Shir of Otzrot Chaim, of Zah, which is the Sfirot of Chesed until Yesod. On those days, he revealed most of those secrets. The rest of the Zohar are explanations that the Chaverim, that the friends learned throughout what we call Gerushin. Gerushin. Now, you guys know my policy. I don't like to use the word Gerushin or its substitute in English, the D word we call it. We don't use that word. I always say to people I speak to, Shalom Bayit, this and that, I always say, first lesson in life, we never use that word in the house. That word has to be like the Havdil, the other word that I don't want to say. Has to be like Yetzer Hara galore. You don't bring that word inside your house. Never. Because once you say it, it already becomes a habit. It becomes mutar already. You never say that word inside your house. Never, ever. And if you do, you have to fast. Like Yom Kippur. For making your mouth tameh. I want to let you guys know that the document that they use for that word is called a get. There is no word in the Hebrew language that has those two letters together. Gimel and a tet. There is no. Open up the whole Torah, all the Nevi'im, all the Ketuvim. You'll never see the letter Gimel and the letter Tet come together. Ever. They just don't come together.
That's why
ever.
Found that word.
The only time you ever see them come together, Chas v'Shalom, is in that document. But on the other hand, the Chachamim had a minhag, not a minhag, a way of life. When they used to want to find Hashem, they used to go to something called gerushin. They used to leave their wives and their family and go into self-exile. Self-exile. They used to go for months on end. And on those self-exiles where they didn't take food with them, they didn't take water with them, they only had a couple of friends. They used to go a couple of friends. They used to sit under a cave, in a water with complete emunah. Complete emunah. And they used to study over their Torah, and in those instances, Eliyahu HaNavi used to reveal himself to them, or sometimes even souls of tzaddikim, like Rav Hamnuna Saba, which in the Zohar he's called the big fish. Rav Hamnuna Saba. He's the Gilgul of Moshe Rabbeinu, by the way, of that generation. And there were souls like Benayahu Ben Yoyada, Yecheskel Hanavi, who used to reveal themselves to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rav Yeva Sava, and he used to tell them, it's called Ivur Neshama, and they used to reveal to them what we call today the Zohar HaKadosh. Okay? One of those great revealments in which Hashem Yitbarach himself, he was revealed almost in a state of prophecy. It was almost complete prophecy, but unfortunately there was no Beit HaMikdash. But it was in Eretz Yisrael, where Hashem revealed himself to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, was on Lag BaOmer. And that was not on his deathbed. His deathbed was called the Idrazuta. Idrazuta. Unfortunately, one of the books that we have has a typo over there. There's a typo, and we think it's his passing date. It's not his passing date. Adraba, it's his date of great celebration. And we know that this is a real minhag, it's a true minhag. Because Rabbi Chaim Vital, the Ari's main student, whoever wants to know a little bit more about him, we have a video about him in the L'Shem Inspiration over there in our YouTube channel. You guys can see it over there. I have 2 videos on Rabbi Chaim Vital. The Ari HaKadosh, when he was in Egypt, when he was in Egypt, he had a son called Moshe. Ari called his son Moshe. He was a Gilgul, his son, of the brother of Yoav ben Tzeruya. Yoav ben Tzeruya was the general of David HaMelech. He had a brother called Asael. The Ari explained that this neshama was a very, very clear and quick neshama. Very powerful neshama, and that came back in the soul of the Ari's son. His name was Moshe. And when the Ari's son became 3 years old, he used to live in Egypt back then. This was before Chaim Vital even knew him. But he still heard about him. He took him what we call to a chalake, and for a ziorat. You know, Bukhari is called ziorat, where they go to visit the graves. He went from Egypt to Meron to visit all the kivrei tzadikim, and he made a chalake for his son in the kever, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And on that instance, there was a big rabbi who was a Gilgul of Yirmiyahu Hanavi, Jeremiah the prophet. We talked about him on Shabbat. And Yirmiyahu Hanavi, we know he's the Navi of Puranut Chas v'Shalom. Almost all of his prophecies are all about destruction. He wrote the famous book of Eicha, which we read on Tisha B'Av. He went through a very tough life. If you read his book right now, it is in the Chok Israel. That's what we're reading. Very tough, very tough. He was, Hashem told him, don't worry, you're going to have a lot of tribulations upon you, but I'm going to turn you into a amud, a pillar of iron. Nobody could move you. Nobody will be able to move. They put him in jail. They did shtuyot to him in the bathhouses. They did to his, the things that happened to this Rav, to this Navi. He was a Navi. So this rabbi called, his name was Rabbi Avraham Halevi Beruchim. He was a Levi. And this Rabbi Avraham Halevi Beruchim, he always used to cry for the Shekhinah. Always. That was that 18th century, that was called the Dor De'ah. You could throw a pebble into that generation, it would fall on a tzaddik. That was the 18th century, like Ramchal, Baal Shem Tov, Hasidei Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Mikol Marana, the Talmidei Ha'ari. There was like a crazy generation, like a burst of Torah, the 18th century. Wow. So this Rabbi Avraham Halevi Beruchim, he always used to cry, Chorban Beit HaMikdash, Chorban Beit HaMikdash. We have a special blessing in the Shmona Yisrael called Tishkon Betoch Yerushalayim Yercha Kasher Dibarta Baruch Ata Hashem Boneh Yerushalayim. Whoever knows, on Tisha B'Av we change that blessing a bit. We add something over there of Tisha B'Av. It's called HaMenachem Tzion Bebinyan Yerushalayim. That bracha we change it to something that deals with Tisha B'Av. Right? So we still have that golden and Al-Aqsa Mosque over there, the golden dome and the other dome, the small dome. Right? We still have it over there. The Yerushalayim is all of East Yerushalayim, which is where all the tzaddikim were and everything is all under the hands of the, what they call themselves, Palestinian, the Prishtim. That's what they call themselves. Thank you to the Romans, I saw for that. They were the first ones to call them Pax Palestina. They were the first ones to do that, and from then on the name stuck. Whoever was over there. Thank you, Isav, our uncle. And he has Olam Haba. You get it? Yaakov, because he had a brother called Yaakov Avinu. Because of his brother, he took him out. When Yaakov was crying, when Yosef HaTzadik was killed, right? He was also praying for his brother. And that's why they died on the same day, so he could be mamlitz. He could take him out. Because remember, Esav, he's considered a Yisrael. Halachically speaking, he's a Yisrael.
Yeah.
Why is he Yisrael? His mother is he never got a breed because he was sick.
Right.
His mother was Jewish, quote unquote, if we could call him Jewish. And his father was Yitzhak Avinu. So technically speaking, he was from good stock. Rather, the Gvurot, the judgments overcame his neshama because he had the job of overcoming the deen and he couldn't handle it himself. And instead of him overcoming them, those dinim inside Esav, those red dinim, we see that idea, ha'adom hazeh, this red din, the blood. His nation is called what? Edom, blood, Adam. That number, by the way, the number Adam equals 45. And we're going to talk about that today. B'ezrat Hashem, Rabbi Avraham, and in the tragedy in Meron, which is a great tragedy. We don't even understand how great this tragedy is. In the tragedy of Meron, 45 people passed away. Also, Gematria Edom, and Gematria Adam, and also Gematria Geula, redemption. It's something very, and it happened Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai promised in the Zohar HaKadosh. He promised in Ra'aya Mehemna. He says over there, in the name of the Ra'aya Mehemna, it says over there, this is Ra'aya Mehemna, Moshe Rabbeinu revealed himself to the Nishamot of the Tanaim. And Moshe Rabbeinu said to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Behai Chibura, with this book, Yifkun Yisrael min galuta berachamei, will the Jews come out of their galut with mercy. We don't know Hashem's cheshbonot, but we're still talking about that Lag. What makes Lag BaOmer special? Maybe it's just a day they made up. Chas v'shalom. In the time when the Ari went to make a halakeh for his son in Lag BaOmer by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and that rabbi, Rabbi Avraham Alevi, which was a Gilgul of Jeremiah, a prophet, Yirmiyahu Hanavi. He was his Gilgul. And he always used to cry for the Beit HaMikdash, and he used to always add that blessing. Oh, every day, Tisha B'Av or not Tisha B'Av. He always used to add it. And Rabbi Avraham Alevi was the Shamash in the beginning of the Ari. He's the famous story. Remember, the Ari was sleeping and he was talking in his dream. It was Shabbat, and he woke up and says, Rebbe, what were you talking about? He said, if I tell you 80 years of just what the donkey said to Bilam, it would take me 80 years to just tell you what I learned right now on Shabbat. That was Rabbi Avraham Alevi Beruchim. That was him. That was his Shamash. He was Rabbi Avraham Beruchim. This is before Rabbi Chaim Vital actually was his student. This is before. So Rabbi Avraham Beruchi, on that day on Lag BaOmer, this is a story. It has a lot of samchut. It's brought down in many sefarim, Shifchei. It has a lot of
credible
stamps.
source.
It's not a legend. It's
right.
a story
Credible
that happened.
source.
It's very credible. That he was on that day, the funny thing is, which is it's crazy. You know the whole. If you ever been in Meron, the whole thing on top of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's kever, where it is, you know who built it? Rabbi Avraham Alevi Beruchim with his own money. He was the one who built it. And on that day on Lag BaOmer, like he was his minhag for all the years, he said, Tishkom b'toch Yerushalayim Baruch Ata Hashem Menachem Tzion, like it was Tisha B'Av, and this was his minhag to do that because it was his, sertzu, we say, he couldn't stop himself because he was the Gilgul of Yirmiyahu Hanavi. You always go to where your shorsh neshama is pulling you. You should know that. So he, the Rashbi HaKadosh revealed himself to the Ari Bahakitz. Not bechalom, behakitz. You know what behakitz is? When he was awake, and he told the Ari, tell this Levi over there, tell that Levi, because he said nechama on my day of happiness, he will soon see a nechama. Today is my day of happiness. I told you guys on Lag BaOmer, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was a bit of a, it was a tough, with Mekubalim are like that. There's no gray areas with them. There's black and white. They're very to the point. Straight, exactly. Sfaradim. So anyways, the Rashbi told the Ari Kadosh, tell this him, he said on my day, Nechama, he will soon see a Nechama. On that day, his son passed away, and people came to give him a Nechama. So this story is a very famous story. It's not some story written in some book and a whole This is written in all books of the Ari Kadosh. Therefore, it's very careful. We're very makpi. That's why Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, after the Chorban Beit HaMikdash, is the most visited place, second most visited place in the whole world by Jewish people. On Lag BaOmer itself, over 300,000 people come to visit. The funny thing is, Chas v'Shalom funny, but the crazy thing is that this year was less than usual. Don't think what you saw over there was the usual amount. That was less than the usual years, and never such a thing happened since 1911. Since 1911. And today is with police, it's with this, with security. It's crazy. And you know what the crazy thing is? I was hearing Israeli news a little bit. I get hodaot, so they showed me a clip. I said over there, people, the parshanim, the news guys,
Anchors.
The anchors say, "Oh, we beat the corona, we beat the corona, we beat the corona," and I was thinking to myself, they have to stop saying this. They have to stop saying this. It's not right. We beat the corona, we beat it, I remember a year ago, this past Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, I was saying something about the corona and the thing in the shul. While I was selling for Yom Kippur Rosh Hashanah, my brother right away told me, "Shh, don't say anything. Don't say anything." Right away, I didn't say anything. Understand? You're not allowed to give yourself ayin hara. Sometimes you're the one who gives yourself the most ayin hara. And they keep on saying that we beat it, we beat it, we beat it, we beat it. I said this to myself. I'm not Chas Shalom anything. I'm just saying this is not something that's right to do. But what really ticked me off is these parshanim. It's like they took God out of the equation. They literally took Hashem and took him out. They took out the plus sign. You know what I'm saying? God is the one that adds everything together. If we think for 1 minute, this ason, the tragedy that happened at Mount Meron, where 45, Hashem say regular or not regular, 45. Let's call it Talmidei Chachamim. There was a Bukharian kid over there, Masturov, Yosef Masturov. I read his story over there. He's the second cousin of a guy that listens to my shiurim. If this boy said to his father, the day he passed away, I'm going to learn all night in the Kever of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. I think he was 17, 18 years old. From Ramle he was. And he went to learn over there in such a thing. One of the fathers, he went there with 3 sons. He came back with 1. He was saying inside he was interviewed by the anchors and by the news reporters. He said, you know what he said? Yesterday in the Levaya came to me the Avrech, the guy, he said, he was crying to me. He was touching me. He was crying. He said, I was one of the people who stepped on your son. I saw somebody under my feet, but I couldn't help myself. I couldn't do anything. I was just going with the wave. I was trying to pick him up, but I couldn't. I was one of the people who stepped on him. Wow. Do you know what kind of death? You know what? This is not a regular mita. This is a mita mishuna. Skila and chenek all at the same time. I saw the pictures after it happened. People were just piled on top of each other. This pile, and inside deep, you know what it is to be choked to death in such a situation? It's worse than being drowned to death. It's such a mita mishuna, sekila and chenek, all that. Who knows? Even srefa. They were imagine the heat they suffered inside all of this. The heat, the srefa, the hereg. They were ne'eragim. It's mamash arba mitod beidim. Who ever heard of such a thing? In Klal Yisrael, they're calling it the greatest civilian tragedy inside with their own civilians ever in the history of the modern state of Israel. It's a big wake-up call to Klal Yisrael. We think we beat the corona. It says in the Gemara, in the time when the Geulah will come, Zot Hashem, hopefully may we see it, Zot Hashem. It says over there, it's going to be ason acharei ason, ason acharei ason. It's like Hashem is speeding up the process. He's saying, guys, let's wake up. And I'm trying to be very careful from what I say, because Chas Shalom, to say something that I'm not myself careful of, and to be caught on those words. So everything I'm saying today is everything I'm speaking all the things I'm saying, it's on myself I'm saying, not on anyone else. Chas v'shalom. And to hear of such a tragedy, and we have to remember, and we have to know, and we have to believe. But more than believe, we have to know. We don't have to believe, we have to know. Bishvili na'asa ha'ason hazeh. Why? Why do we have to say that? Because all of Klal Yisrael is one collective human being. We are all one collective human being. Rabotai, one collective human being. We were all in Adam HaRishon as one neshama. We were all in Adam HaRishon as one neshama. And in a generation that such an ason happens, one after another. It's basically, we're all collectively responsible for it. Because if we had the schuyot on Rosh Hashanah, this was all decreed on Rosh Hashanah. Let's not forget that. Last year we said that about what? At the same time, about Corona we said that. And we thought that we passed it. We were stronger. We said conspiracy. It was all done, this and that. Hashem saying, oh, conspiracy, now I'll give you something that wasn't a conspiracy. What are you going to say now? Also a conspiracy? What are we going to say now? This wasn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu? It wasn't him? What are we going to call Hashem right now? Chas v'shalom Achzar? We're going to call him. What are we going to call HaKadosh Baruch Hu? It's a wake-up call. Why there was 45... And you know what the sickest thing is? A person had the guts to take a Zohar HaKadosh and make up a translation and to mass produce it to all of the Jews in the world as if to say this thing was predicted and to try to make... You know what that does? They go, oh, it was predicted. I feel good now about it. It was predicted. What do you mean it was predicted? What kind of shtiyot it is? First of all, it totally took it out of translation. Some mishuga, I don't know who these people are. I think it's the same people. In the beginning of Corona, they did it. At the beginning this, every single time there is an ason as if they're Nevi'im. I don't know, they're waiting by a book or something. They put in some numbers, they see 45, and they try to make connections. What is this? It's a sickness. As if to say, in the day of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, as if to say, it was predicted that 45 holy souls will be taken to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's Hilulah. It's such nonsense. If you just know a little bit Aramaic, you could translate that in a second. On the day of Rabbi Shimon's Idra Rabbah, I was like the Omer, Eliyahu Hanavi wasn't there, says the Idra Rabbah. He wasn't there. He was the only one missing. Rabbi Shimon asked him, why were you missing? So he told him, Chayecha Rebbe, trust me Rebbe, 3 days before you gave the Idra Rabbah, it was already told in Shamayim, you're about to do something great. You're about to reveal secrets. It's a day of celebration. I was also invited. We were all invited. But on that day, there was another big tzaddik called Rav Hamnuna Saba. He was in jail, in a Roman jail. And Hashem sent me to go and save his life. And I had to kill 45 Roman soldiers. What does 45 Roman soldiers have to do with 45 tzaddikim that were korbanot? I want to know. What does one have to do with the other? The number 45? Kol hakavod. I understand you say 45 gematria geula. 45 gematria Adam. I understand you say something. These things can make a massive chilul Hashem, Rabotai. I was learning a little bit halachot chilul Hashem. It's scary. What could be a chilul Hashem? Chilul Hashem is not forgiven only by death. That's one chilul Hashem. You can't do teshuvah on chilul Hashem. I'm saying this and I'm afraid myself what I'm saying. Chilul Hashem could even be, says the Ramban, could even be, I heard this yesterday, if a person is in a stature, like a high stature, and he doesn't act according to his stature, and people say, oh, look how he acts. Mm-hmm. That, according to the Ramban, could be a chilul Hashem. It's scary. Ever since then, I always button my top button over here. It kills. But could we imagine? Are we safe from these kind of stuff? Why it happened? I saw the picture in that section where those 45 tzaddikim passed away. You know what tzaddikim are? The brother of one of the kids who passed away. The brother of one of the kids. His name was, I think, the one that passed away was Yedidia. His name was Yedidia, and his brother, I forgot his name, Shmuel, I think. The anchor asked him, how did you get saved? A Druzi soldier. Who would have thought? A Druzi soldier he saw them being buried. He took his hand and he was able to, whatever he could He took him out. And the anchor, what were you doing at that moment? He said, I was saying Shema Yisrael and Vidui.
Wow.
Could you imagine? I think he was 15 years old, that kid.
Younger.
He says, I was being buried alive, almost being engulfed by the bodies. Shema Yisrael Echad, Vidui Hashem Chadei. Look at that emunah. Look at that emunah. Only in Eretz Yisrael you find this kind of emunah. I just want to let you know that. Only in Eretz Yisrael. Also over here. It's a special energy over there. This is major emunah. That story, I'm telling you, the father said in the Levaya, he was doing his utmost to bury his son on a Friday. Because they passed away Thursday night, he went bury on Friday. He couldn't do it. He said in front of the whole Levaya, he said, that morning when you woke up, you told me, Abba, I want to go to the mikveh today. And I told him, why do you want to go to the mikveh? It's not Friday. You only go to the mikveh before Shabbat. Why suddenly you want to go to the mikveh? I don't know, I have a feeling. I need to go to the mikveh. Because your neshama knew, it felt already that today you're going to give your soul to Hashem Yitbarach. Such a mitah mishuna, lo alenu klal Yisrael. We have after mamash. I don't know if there's anybody here. I know for sure me. When we heard the first things, like, it's mamash, it's to cry over such things. Such a thing happened in our time. We're living through history after history after history. You know how much of the history books are going to talk about our generation? About how we have to wake up. I have to wake up. We have to wake up. We have to know it's not. And I want to tell you something crazy. It happened in the Omer time. In the Omer time. What's in the Omer? 24,000, 12,000 chavrutas. 24,000 of the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva passed away. 12,000 zugot. Zugot is chavrutas. 24,000 Talmidei Chachamim. The Gemara says, the Talmud says, on the day that they passed away, these 33 days that they passed away, over 700 rabbis a day. 700 rabbis. We're crying over 45. Imagine what it is. 700 rabbis a day. Imagine if there was a media back then. Would there be left Jews in the world? Lo aleinu, right? Imagine if there was a media, one Rasha in the media. I'm going to say his name, Yamach Shemo v'zichro. His name is Yaron London.
In Israel.
You heard it? In Israel, in the Channel 12, the main Reshet Keshet. She'elchu Keshet. So this Yaron London, Shem Rishaim Yirkav. You know what he goes on the media and he says? I felt like the same thing, you know. They're not our brothers. Okay, ask how do you feel? Everyone was so united. The Chilonim, even the Aravim. Even the Aravim. And this Rasha goes on media and he says, I feel like they're a different people in our country. The same way I felt when the tsunami happened, remember 2004, there was a big tsunami? That's the same way I feel right now. Your own flesh and blood, Klal Yisrael, your own flesh and blood. How could you erev? That's what the pasuk says. Va'asafsuf erev, va'asafsuf asher b'kirbom. This is mamash erev. If I had any safek, if there was erev Rav today, now I know for sure there is erev Rav. If you could say such a thing, after such an ason, there is erev Rav in Klal Yisrael. We cannot. The Zohar says black on white. I usually don't quote Zohars over here, but the Zohar, almost always I'm afraid to quote Zohar. I'm afraid. Because we don't know the meaning of the Zohar. The Zohar says before the last Geula, our main adversary will not be Esav and not be Ishmael. It will be the Erev Rab, the mixed multitude. They will be our main adversaries. How could you go on even their own lefties were going crazy on him. And one Rishait Mirshat, Mamash. This is Shem Rishaim Yirkab Adasof. She had the guts with all her thousands and thousands and thousands of followers on Instagram, wherever she is, to go on Instagram and say, these psychos, as if she's some kind of ne'orah, she's speaking in English. These psychos, they went to pray. Good for them. Erev Rav. 24,000. This is the media today. This is the left-wing media. I'm sorry. It's the truth.
No sympathy.
There's no sympathy. 45 between them, mostly children. One father passed away there, a father of 9 children. All right, it's a mitzvah. If you get one of those things to tzedakah for them, to give something.
Yad Eliezer collecting money.
It's a very credible organization, Yad Eliezer, to give something for them. 100, 200, whatever you care. But it's a son nora. This is, I'm telling you, I think it's worse than a corona. Do you know how many people's emunah were hit by this? How many of their emunah was hit by this? How many people went crazy with their... The father was saying, I'm just praying to Hashem one thing, one of the fathers, that my emunah doesn't get broken.
So he was very
He's married 2 sons.
Chassid,
Yeah, Chassid. I'm just praying for one, my emunah doesn't get broken. And don't think this doesn't touch America too. From America.
New Jersey kid.
From New Jersey. What was his name? Morris. Yeah. Joey Morris. Joseph Morris. Could you imagine? That means it has to do something with us too. And where exactly? All Charedim. You pay attention. All of them what? Charedim. All of them. Rav Nissim Yagen Zatzal used to say, may Hashem rest his soul in peace.
Amen.
Rav Nissim Yagen used to say, when Hashem wants to hit hard, he hits the heart. When you want to wake up the body, if your leg hurts, hi, my leg hurts. We'll put some hot heat patches. Do some massage.
By your free.
When this hit, but when you want to shake up the body, when does a person get scared?
Heart
When you hit the heart, the Charedim, not Charedim, I don't like that word. The religion, the observant, just wear the heart.
With the engine.
Do you realize in the Corona how much they went down on us? Don't say it was only in Israel. What, over here, our great mayor didn't do that too also for us? He didn't also attack Queens? He didn't attack Brooklyn? He didn't attack Borough Park? Okay, no, he's a communist. Trump is gonna win, we said. He's gonna change. He didn't win, no batich, no shmentich. He got impeached, the first president in history after he left office. Twice he got impeached. Never in history after office. After office. And then Hashem says, "Hi, you guys are not waking up." Once again, I'm talking about myself. We're not waking up. He sent such an asan. It touched Jews from Canada, Jews from England, Jews from Israel, from all over the world. We're the main population. It hit all of us. And we're not waking up. What if we want to wait for the next asan? Chas v'shalom? We want to wait for the next one? Do we want the next one, Rabotai? Do we want something like that again? Rabotai, buried alive and trampled on.
Yeah.
The guy is seeing the kid under his legs. He cannot pick him up. Do you ever see those stone? I don't know if you guys ever been there. It's stone floors.
As soon as he bent down,
so probably he was out.
No,
lack of oxygen. That's the same exact way the students of Rabbi Akiva passed away. That was the disease. Lack of oxygen. Corona was what? Hit the lungs. Lack of oxygen. Is there a connection here, Abotai? I think we don't need to be a Navi to make the connection over here. We're missing our oxygen. Why did Hashem take 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva? Why do we make a simcha on Lag BaOmer? You know why we make a simcha on Lag BaOmer? Oh yeah, Rabbi Shimon, he made Idra Rabbah. Rabbi Akiva didn't pass away. You know why we make a simcha? Because if it wasn't for those 5 students, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Meir Ba'al Hanes, Rabbi Elazar Ben Shamo, Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ila'ai, Rabbi Yosef Ben Chalafta, if it wasn't for those 5 students, we wouldn't have a Torah today. There would be no Torah Sheba'al Peh. Finished. Stam Mishnah Rabbi Meir, Stam Sifri Rabbi Shimon, Stam Sifra Rabbi Elazar. All the authors of our Torah Sheba'al Peh are these 5 students. We cry, you can't get married on Lag BaOmer. I just want to let you know, the first mitzvah in the Torah is to what? Get married. People tell me, I teach kids and seniors, I teach them. I tell them, you guys have to get married. You guys are graduating high school. Oh, you need to work, we need to work. I says, no. But the Rambam, suddenly they know the Rambam. But the Rambam said, first you need to get a job, get a house, and then get a wife. Says, no, today we do everything hafuch. We get a wife, then we get a house, then we will get a job. You need to get married. Who will help us? You're wearing Ferragamo shoes with Makash gold. I think somebody's going to help you, okay? I think somebody's going to help you, okay? You're okay. Don't worry about it.
You're Gucci.
Yeah. The school bag is Gucci. Say something is in there, Bifla. So, first get married. But in 33 days of the Omer, we're not allowed to get married. Hashem said, cancel out Kriya V'Rivia. Why? What was their sin, Rabotai? What was their sin? What did they do? The Gemara says, the Talmud says, in these 33 days, Abraham, the world became shamem. You know what shamem is? Dark. There was no one to teach Torah to. Everyone lost their emunah. Everyone lost their emunah. From the beginning of Israel until the end of Israel. Everyone lost their emunah. 24,000 chief rabbis. What the Gemara says? Shelo nahagu kavod ze leze. Let's take those words and dissect it. They did not. What's the word nahagu? Like a minhag. Does it say that shedibru lashon hara ze al ze? These are Tanaim over here. You think they spoke lashon hara about each other? You think they were mivazeh one another? You think they put each other down while learning? The Gemara says stories. The two rabbis are learning. From the heated fight, they ripped the Sefer Torah. From the heated fight, the rabbi that was there said, the Tana says, over here will be built, instead of a shul, a church. And so it was. And so it was. They were learning Torah. They didn't have books. They didn't have Mishnayot. They were Tanaim. They were learning from the heated fight. It was so heated. They were learning from a Torah. They were learning the Pesukim and learning Torah Sheba'al Peh from the Pesukim. This one pulled this side. This one pulled this side. They ripped the Sefer Torah. One of the Tanaim that was there says, I will be, I think it was Rabbi Yosef ben Zimra, he says, I will wonder if this place will not turn into a church, lo aleinu. And so it was. The Gemara says this story. It turned into a church. The Gemara in Ta'anit says, the Torah turns you into fire, but you're not allowed to be fire. You have to be barzel, iron. You have to turn yourself into iron. Turn yourself into iron. 24,000 Talmidim. It didn't Rav Shalom put them their charutas down. They didn't say you're in, I don't want to say you're this, you're that. They didn't say lashon hara about each other. They didn't say basab chas v'shalom tanaim kedoshim. You know what they did? They didn't give each other kavod. Lo nahagu. You know what the word minhag is? You don't have to do it. It's a minhag. Hashem is giving us a lesson over here. 24,000 Talmidim died. From 5 students, we have the whole Torah. Imagine if we would have 24,000. You know what we would have today? Not a library. We would have an ocean of Torah. An ocean. Hashem says, I don't need your ocean. Shelo nahaktem. Not chayav. It wasn't chayav. Lo nahaktem. Each one of them knew they were students of the Gadol Hador. Why didn't you give him that extra kavod? The Ari Kadosh, once he was sitting down, he saw Talmid Chacham walk in front of him from Tzfat. He was learning with his student, Rabbi Chaim Vital. Suddenly he sees his Rebbe, he was the Mikubal of the generation, the Mikubal, the Rav, the Tzaddik, the Posek. Right away he gets up, he puts his head down in front of that rabbi, and the rabbi passes. Rabbi Chaim says, Rebbe, what are you doing? He doesn't even equal your shulaim, this Rav. He doesn't even equal your the end of the jacket, the shulaim. He says, yeah, but I know he likes kavod, so I give it to him. Shelo nahagu kavod ze lazeh. I tell you, a story שצריך לזעזע אותנו. We need unity. Unity we need, Rabotai. Not enough to say unity Sefer Torah. The Sefer Torah has unity, but do we have the unity? Dude. Crazy story, true story. I heard it today from Rav David Yosef, the son of Rav Yosef. Crazy. When I heard the story, mamash, it's a story of generations. There's no miracles in this story. There's no muftim, no nivuot, no ruach hakol, no gilgulim. Listen to this. The greatest, probably the biggest yeshiva today is the Mir Yeshiva. They have thousands and thousands of Talmidim. Thousands. One time, lo aleinu, but happens, the Rosh Yeshiva, he passed away. In our generation, this was. Before, a little bit before, maybe 50, 60 years. Passed away, I forget his name. He passed away, the Rosh Yeshiva passed away. Now, unfortunately, when the Rosh Yeshiva passes away, it's a tug of war of power. That's how it is, always. But in the Rosh Yeshiva was smart. He wrote a tzava'ah. Tzava'ah is a will. He said, my successor is Rav Nassan Tzvi Finkel. Rav Nassan Tzvi Finkel. I think he passed away on the 10th of Cheshvan, the same day of Rachel Imenu. I remember his levaya. Rav Nassan Tzvi Finkel had, I think, a cousin or an uncle that was older than him, Rav Aryeh Finkel. many of the Talmidim in the yeshiva felt that the previous Rosh Yeshiva didn't give the right person the job. He didn't get a job. It was old age, probably, Chas v'Shalom, and he wrote it to the younger relative. But Rav Aryeh Finkel was much older, and most of the yeshiva was on his side. He was supposed to be the Rosh Yeshiva. And he was, so we know, even by the Mekubalim, the most celebrated and special number is the number 6. Because we have 10 Sfirot, and the 10 Sfirot are always split into 2 portions, 3 and 7, the brain and the body. In the brain we have Chokhmah, Bina, and Da'at, or Keter Chokhmah, Bina, depending on our situation. Those 3, they're Kodesh Kodashim. They are untouchable. They are the untouchables. But the 7 below, that's where all the Shtuyot happens, the Midot. Chesed, Givura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. By the Mekubalim, by the Pashtanim, the best number is the number 3. Tiferet, that's the biggest part. So the Talmid Chacham by the Pashtanim always goes up to Aliyah Shlishi. Rabbeinu Tam always goes Aliyah Shlishi. Yeah, באמת, Shoshi, Damoti. Yaakov Aviv. But the Mekubalim, no, they don't take the biggest part of the body, they take the smallest part of the body. Shishi, the Yesod. Why the Yesod they take? Number 6, it represents Yosef HaTzadik, who is the connector, he's the unifier. He unifies between the Yesod and the Malchut, which is your wife. Your wife represents the 7th Sphira, Malchut. She's the Shekhinah in your house. So since she's the since Yesod is the unifier, and everything in Judaism is about unification, it's about making everything really one, it's all really God, right? It's all connected, it's the bridge. HaYesod Nikra Gesher. This is the 6th week of Sphira, by the way. We're in the 6th week, right? The Mekubalim have a minhag to stay up every single night of these nights to fix all their pegamim of the Yesod. And the crazy thing is, this year is one of the few years that the Yesod Shabbat Yesod, which is the foundation of the unifier of the unifier, falls on Shabbat. Wow. Get ready for some stuff over here. So, therefore, the rabbi always goes up by Sfaradim, Mekubalim, always Aliyah Shishi. 6th Aliyah. Because that's the unifier. That's where the bracha is. So too in Simchat Torah, the most given hakafa is the 6th one. Yesod. He's the unifier. Yeah. You need to be a unifier. You need to be a connector in life. Right? Yosef. So that's Simchat Torah in Mir Yeshiva. Rav Nassan Tzvi already took the position. But the students wanted to make a point. No, I wanted to make a point. So in the 6th Hakafa, they all stood in front of their Rebbe, Rav Aryeh Finkel, the older one, and started to dance in front of him and leave the other one alone and started to say, Yamim al yemei melech tosif shnotav kemo dor vador. Started to dance in front as if he was really the one that's meant to be the Rosh Yeshiva. So now put yourself in Rav Aryeh Finkel's shoes. Technically speaking, he could have said to himself, I was really worthy. I didn't say anything when my younger cousin got the position. Okay, they want to dance in front of me, make me feel good. Okay. You know what he did? Right away, he got up. He was already in his 80s. He ran over to his younger cousin and he started to dance in front of him. Yamim al yemei melech tosif shnoda, and the whole yeshiva was shocked. They never saw a display of how you're supposed to act. Linhok kavod ze lazeh. That's what it means. Linhok kavod ze lazeh. That's what they were missing, the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva. Who am I to say it? But I'm only repeating what I heard Talmidei Chachamim say. That's what it means. And there was shalom and peace in the whole yeshiva. Isn't that crazy? That story should shake you to the core. Imagine the human, the will you need to do such a thing. I'll tell you another crazy story. It was Rav Ovadia Yosef. Rabbeinu Ovadia Yosef. There was a big rabbi in Yerushalayim. He was the chief rabbi of Jerusalem. There's a chief rabbi of every city And then there's a chief rabbi of all of Israel. Back then, Rav Ovadia Yosef, Meron Rav Ovadia Yosef was the chief rabbi of Israel. And the chief rabbi of Morocco was coming to move to Israel. His name was Rav Shalom Mashash. Later on, he would be the chief rabbi of Jerusalem. And the first Shabbat that he stayed by, I didn't have time to make Shabbat. The first Shabbat he stayed was none other than in the house of Rav Ovadia Yosef. And you know those pilot, those ovens of back in the day, those pilot ovens. So Rav Ovadia Yosef used to have a minhag when he used to, there's a halacha that you can't leave food overcooked to cook into Shabbat. It's called shihiyah. Shihiyah, it's called. You can't leave the cook uncooked; it will cook into Shabbat. Midrabanan, it's asur. Now there is a couple of machlakot how stringent you have to be. So Rav Ovadia told his wife Margalit, the Rabbanit, her name was Margalit, Zichronah livracha. He told her, usually I let you put it straight on the stove. There's a pilot under. I don't consider that to be shehiyah. But I don't know what the chief rabbi of Morocco holds. Maybe he's stringent. It's his own house! And he in his book, Yabia Omer, has 7 pages just to say why it's okay. He literally, Ovadia, ripped the halacha apart. Because take, we have those platas, the blech, the hot plates, like the metal ones.
Yeah.
Put it just in case that Rav Shalom Mashash holds that you need that too. His wife says, but the chillent is going to be cold. He said, it doesn't matter. We have to give kavod to that Talmid Chacham. So the lesson that we have to learn from this, one of the lessons, we don't know the real one, but maybe this is it. The father that came out of the tragedy, he said the first thing, he said, Ashkenazi Sfaradi. There's no such thing Ashkenazi Sfaradi. You know the truth? There's no such kind of thing. There's no such thing as an Ashkenazi. You know what Ashkenazi is? We have Lithuanians. We have Hasidish. In the Hasidish, we have Bobov, Vishnitz. Every Lithuanian Jew has his own Rosh Yeshiva. We don't have 12 tribes. We have today 12,000 tribes. And we have to look at every tribe and we have to say, Nara or Nahara Pashte. Each one is Divrei Elohim Chaim. He has the right to follow, if it's the true halacha and the true way his father said, his father's Masoret. If they don't eat rice on Pesach, then they don't eat rice. If they eat rice, then they eat rice. If this one eats peeled tomatoes on Passover, then he eats peeled tomatoes. This is the way he accepted from his Rebbe. If this one prays Kedusha and you have no idea if he's saying Ayeh, this is the way his Rebbe did it. This is the way his Rebbe did it. If they do say Ayeh, this is the way their Rebbe did it. And each one has a source in the Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's what means Divrei Elohim Chaim. And what did we see in this tragedy? We had Bukharians over there, we had Moroccans, we had Iraqis, we had Ashkenazim, we had Hasidim, everyone. Hashem is saying I want you guys to be unity, not in just a unity Sefer Torah. To have unity, you have to work on yourself every single day. You have to be able to look at another Jew. I was talking to some Yid the other day, and I told him, so-and-so, and I said, in our shul, I said to him, we have Jews of all different kinds of backgrounds. Anybody could come in. There's no kind of thing. You're Syrian, you're Moroccan, you're this, you're that, you're Ashkenazi, you're Sfaradi. Everyone is welcome. But when you're there, and in Bukhari we have our own 12,000 tribes. And when you're in a place, you have to follow the minhag of the place. But if you see somebody doing something different, you have to respect his derech of his avot. We have to accept each other. We don't have to be the same. That's wrong. God didn't agree with Rachel. He agreed with Leah. Leah said, segregation is the key to unification. Rachel said, no, you need a utopian world. We're all under one banner. It's a Zohar. God didn't agree with Rachel. He agreed with Leah. There's a case of Kohanim. There's a case of Leviim. There's a case of Yisraelim, and in the Yisraelim we have Talmidei Chachamim, and we have the Balabasim, and we have this, and we have that. We will give Truma. We all need to work together as a unified body. And if we do, those 45 Kiddushei Hashem will really be 45 Gematria Geula. It will really be Geula. And we don't need to wait for another Ason. We don't need to wait. we need to act now, and act first of all in our house. We need to be unified with our wives. We need to be unified with our kids. We need to be unified with our families. We need to be unified with our friends. We need to be unified with the people at our shul. And then we'll be able to be unified with the people in Klal Yisrael. And if we do that, B'ezrat Hashem, the tragedy in Meron will turn into what? As it every time in Klal Yisrael when there's a tragedy, it will turn into bracha v'atzlacha. Hashem yimzakeh otanu, shelo neda any more tzarot, ubilah hamavet lanetzach. May those Kiddushei Elyonim that passed away in Meron, those 45 tzaddikim, may Litz Yosher upon us, that they passed away in Kiddush Hashem, v'mekadesh Shem Shamayim, like in Nadav Avihu, b'krovai ekadesh. May we all be zoche to be עולה לארץ ישראל בשלוש רגלים, לפני משיח צדקנו, ברוך ה' לעולם, אמן ואמן. רבי חנניה